Come build a grain bin building for our farm. We replaced a structure that was here and added a grain bin building that was 2 times the square footage of the old building that was here. Here we are placing 1 foot of crushed gravel around the perimeter. This is where the foundation's going. This is the slab on the top. This was 6 inches thick by 43 feet wide. The outer perimeter where the footing was actually 3 feet deep and only 2 feet wide, and that's where the structure sits. So they did this in 2 steps. They did the footing first, the 3 foot by 2 foot. They poured that, let it dry, and then they put this 6 inch slab on top with rebar, with little huts, I think they were called. They kept the rebar sticking up into the concrete. It was hot this day. I think it was 96 or 97, so we had to just keep water on this all day long. Here's me and Matthew. We forgot to do the ramp into the greenhouse, so we ended up doing this by hand after the concrete truck left. But still, we got it done, and it shows you how long it takes. There's the pad, the final setup. I put 2 little container cubes in there for our honey operations. That's where we're going to put all of our honey equipment and spin it in those containers. Here's the perimeter, the first ring right off the truck. They do this first and then they erect the roof panels, which are these long ones on the truck here with little metal stiffeners. The stiffeners is because the building is so wide itself. I think those roof panels were 10 gauge metal, and even just one of them weighs, I mean, we couldn't even lift them.
So they're working
but
now,
there's the
putting
stiffeners in between.
metal
That adds rigidity to that long stretch. I think it was
I-beams
like
almost.
23 feet from the corner
You can
to
see
the
'em
middle.
separated, but that gives it a little
They
bit
have a
more
giant
rigidity
jack
on this
in the
part
middle
of
of
the
this
roof.
holding this all up, and they put it together loose. Also, all the bolts to it are loose, so as they put them together, they all kind of sit in place. And then when they get the last one in, right about now, they tighten down all the bolts, and then they have the entire roof complete before they start working on the sides. Then they put these little cranes up. They go all the way around. They're spaced out, I think, every 8 feet. And they just crank it up and they measure in between the bottom panel and the ground. There's 2 guys on the other side, and they all just yell numbers out to each other to make sure that it's going up exactly the same way all the way up, because you can't be too low on one side or the other side, or you can have some drama happen. But yeah, he just goes around cranking them, cranks again. You can hear him yelling to the other guy on the other side, and then they just keep doing this for each set of panels. I think mine was a 6 panel. This is only panel 1. So they get it high enough up for them to put the new panels on underneath, so they'll do row 2 next. This was over about 3 hours, so that's how long it took them to
2
do
more
each
panels
ring.
to go, so it's going to be a little bit higher. Probably come up to about there.
But there's an echo in here.
There's some cross straps in there that keeps the whole ring from bending in on itself as it's going upward. This is all we heard the entire time was these drills. This thing must have had 50,000 bolts and nuts. So this is what we heard for an entire week as they were putting it together. Here's the final 2 rings. And this was over a period of about 6 hours, this whole time lapse. They cut the door in on the side for us right now because they still have to be able to get inside and work in there. I ended up cutting another door in on the front side, so aiming towards the driveway. And then the engineer said that we had to add 6 by 6 by 16 pressure treated beams at each entry to the doorway to add, I guess, rigidity to it so it doesn't move or whatever. So we had to do that after the fact. The guys were already gone. They were here for 5 days building this. Here's Ashley putting on the epoxy floor, it was pretty cool. We could pick out whatever color we wanted, and I said, you know what, why not? Let's just do sky blue. Here's a picture or a video from the top. This was scary up here. This is the highest point on the structure or on the farm. So even though it's secure and it's, it's heavy gauge metal and all that, it was just really scary to be up here. But I had to put a couple bolts on that top round cover to seal it up so water wasn't getting in. And there's a ladder going along the side, but I don't know how these guys do it when they fill it with grain, because I was really spooked being up there. Here's a picture from the inside. I got some commercial doors for the entryway. That container cube is our honey production area now. We're going to put all of our honey spinners and frames and all that stuff in that container, so we have a dedicated area to spin honey in. Here's a view going into the greenhouse. Small ramp going down into it, very similar to what we had there before. All the tools are around the perimeter, storage around the perimeter also. But it's just enormous in here. It was definitely well worth the project. And I'm so excited to just work this year in it, where we literally have 2 times plus the space. A little drone video going up over the top, but the roof panels itself are like a 45-degree angle, so it's very pointy looking. It almost looks like all the customers that come in call it the missile silo. But that's because of snow loads, and they had to do that just so the snow shedded off of it properly so it did not collapse. But it literally fit perfectly in between the 2 greenhouses. I'm so happy I found this company, just because it just fit perfect for the farm.